Evening. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for helping us with the social studies content standards, Jennifer. My name is Sarada. It's pronounced as Sarada, and I am the founder of Layavinyasa, which is a nonprofit that shares Indian art forms with the communities. Through the organization, we do events that are, that showcase Indian arts. We do art education programs in and around Connecticut. Um, we are located in Glastonbury, so most of the art education programs are in the Hartford County area, in the Hartford schools, as well as some of the other schools around the Hartford area. Also, we do events in libraries. We have workshops and fun ways of learning about Indian culture through art programs, such as understanding the festivals and so on and so forth. So I have a few slides here which talk about the standards that correlate with the presentation. I must tell you that being a parent in the Glastonbury district, I have little bits of information from the social studies curriculum here from my own children, and also the presentation that you're going to see today is mostly from my experiences of what I've been asked in the art education workshops when I go to the schools from I would say K through 8 so far. So I'll pause here and I'll go through each slide while you can, quickly skim through these standards.
One note I'll make about the standards, and I promise I won't interject again, is this is just a few from each of the grade spans that are directly related to today's presentation. But there are many, many more that I'm sure if you haven't looked at them much, you'll see that there are many connections to the content that you'll be learning about today.
So I begin today's presentation with the Golden Age, which dates back to 320, between the 320 to 550 CE. It was the Gupta Empire, and I start off with this age because there was a lot of development in terms of discoveries and inventions in science, technology, engineering, language, astronomy, religion, and philosophy. So the Hindu culture that you probably would be familiar with is the foundation at this point of the time in time. We started off, having a lot of development in this religion. Oops. This slide is about the Muslim conquests that started in the 8th century and they continued for a while. The Mughal dynasty was established in 1526, and there were periods of war. There were also periods of harmonious relationships between the Hindu-Muslim communities, where arts and culture also thrived in certain Muslim courts, where the kings were very appreciative and they were patrons of art, even though the arts were very tightly tied into the Hindu religion and the Hindu philosophy. A brief note about arts in India. The ancient and medieval Indian arts are unique because they are integrated in many ways. So the paintings, the sculptures, the architecture, music, dance, oral histories, and traditions that you see today thrived in the ancient and medieval Indian communities, and they had all roots in the religious, scriptures. So when we practice art forms today, we have three broad categories, or the genres that we can talk about. The first genre that I've been trained in is classical forms, and then the second one is the folk traditions of India. The third is a popular culture, which is a fairly new form that has evolved very recently through film culture, which is called Bollywood. And you probably will be familiar with this through yoga studios, workout studios, where they offer high energy dancing and singing, which is called Bollywood dancing and singing. So, out of these three genres, the classical forms are the most rooted in religion. They portray stories from mythology, Hindu mythology. Hindu is the religion, and Hindu mythology has several stories of good and evil. And the festivals also have a strong connection to these legends or mythological stories. Folk traditions are more about having communities get together, for celebrations like weddings, celebrating the harvest, or maybe a newborn baby in the family. So folk traditions are easier and do not require a lot of training as opposed to classical forms. The third, of course, is the popular culture, which is Bollywood, the film culture that evolved in the recent 100 years. I would say approximately is what Bollywood is about. I've put in some pictures just to give you context that classical dances are not just one. There are many. There are nine, in fact, and they are different in each region of India. So there is a lot of diversity within India, with respect to language, religion, practices, customs, traditions. Our presentation today only catches a glimpse of those. So it is not going to cover all of it. Uh, it's a perspective through art forms because my work is mostly in the art education as well as performance space. So what you see are four dance forms here: Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Mohiniyattam, Kathakali, Odissi, Chow, Satriya, Manipuri, and Kathak. So these are the nine different classical forms recognized by the government today, and they are based on different regions of India. So, as a fun activity, I would like you to join in to do a little, hands-on activity. This is trying hand gestures. So, in Indian classical dancing, we use our hand gestures to portray stories, to embody certain aspects of our dancing. So, this is also part of what we do in our school programs when we go and give presentations. And there are hand gestures like we form different shapes and we portray things from nature. For instance, this is a bird, two birds flying in the sky, and this is water. You could also use the same gesture to close the door or say no. When you shape your fingers like this, it becomes a snake. So, moving it like a snake, just like that, portrays a snake, two snakes. And then this hand gesture, where the thumb and the two fingers are joined, can be any animal with two ears. So we use this to show a deer or a coyote or any other animal. If you look at that, the face of any animal with the two ears popping up is very clearly visible. So this is a glimpse of what we actually do as a hands-on activity during our art education programs, specifically in the dance space. Now, just for context, as I was saying about the integrative aspects of Indian art forms, we have several carvings on our temples, the medieval temples, ancient temples, where you will see uh, panels and panels of stories which are carved. And these are stories from different parts of our scriptures. And there are two major epics, which are Ramayana and Mahabharata. These are also, familiar epics for the Southeast Asian population, not just Indian. So these are walls where they have these stories carved onto the walls, and it's an 8th century temple of one of the states in India. This is a sculpture. Again, the integrative component comes through here, where you see this picture or a sculpture of Nataraja. So we use hand gestures to actually portray Nataraja like this, and we use our complete body to show these postures when we are dancing. And all our dances have the theme which connect with these gods and goddesses from the Hindu religion. This is a 10th century sculpture of Shiva, who is the lord of dance. And this is a painting. This painting is dated 1775 to 80. And the painting is an inspiration from a literary masterpiece called Gita Govindam. Again, it's from the medieval times, the 12th century. Around this time, even the Muslim kings were great patrons of art. So in their courts, there was a lot of support for painting, sculpture, music, and dance. And this is one of those paintings which was made commissioned by one of the kings of that time. Now we come to the colonial period, which lasted for almost 300 years. And it was called British Raj because it was the rule of the Britishers, lasted from 1600 to 1947. Around this time, the patronage for art forms and oral traditions had declined, primarily because there was no funding for these artists, there was no interest in the religion. The kings started to lose their power, so there was no money to pay for the arts. One point I would like to make here about the colonial period is dividing all of the people based on religion and communities which practice certain um, I would say professions, like the potters, the weavers, the priests, the warriors, all of these thrived as separate communities. They coexisted. But when the Britishers started to rule, they found that there was this difference in communities, and they started to create a divide, eventually creating oppressive, situations where people had differences with one another. Eventually, around yeah, so eventually the we did coexist in different religions. Muslims and Hindus were the major religious groups that were there up till the point where we received independence. Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the leader of the Muslim League, and at that point, when we were receiving independence, they had requested for a separate state. And 1947 partition was a very sad chapter in the history of India, because the Muslims who were in today's portion of India were asked to leave and go to Pakistan. And so was the case from Pakistan to India. So they had to abandon their properties and come over to this space, because they were from a different religion, although they coexisted before independence. That was the sad ending of our nationalist movement. So today we do have Hindus and Muslims in India, even though we had the partition. I come from South India, and I have several friends from Muslim families and also other religious groups. After independence, some chose to stay back, some chose to leave the country. So we do have Bangladesh as well, that formed in 1971. One note I would like to make from the experiences that I had as an art educator in schools is I got asked a question about my caste. Now, I'm not sure if the teachers on today's meeting have are familiar with this. The school textbooks they talk about caste as a hierarchical, division in the society. Unfortunately, uh, there was a phase of oppressive acts during the colonial period, which makes the caste system a very hot button topic today, especially with the political climate that we have. So I have a link here. You can, open up that link to understand more about why caste system is, a difficult subject to talk about. Uh, I'm not sure if, we can have a Q&A after the presentation to understand if you do have this in your books at this point. So, social categories of religion and caste, um, as they were perceived in modern day India, were developed during the British colonial rule at a time when the information was scarce and the colonizers' power was information was absolute. So they had more control, and they could um, kind of create this inequality in the society, and which still exists in 19 after 1947. Unfortunately, it still exists, and we still do see discrimination based on caste today in both urban and rural areas of India. Not much in the urban spaces, but a lot more in rural spaces of certain parts of India. Just for an idea, I have included a map. This was before the partition of Pakistan and India, as you can see on the top, where there is the Pakistan portion. It was all one, geographical space. And then after our independence, this is what you have. This is the map of India. There is no Pakistan. That portion is separated out, and Bangladesh as well. So these are the different states that exist. And the main reason I was speaking about diversity is because each of these states speak a different language. We have different customs and traditions. So today in India, we have the major religions, which are Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. There are more religious groups, which are, Sikhism. Sikhism is pretty much in the northern side of India. We have Buddhism, Jainism as well. Some of the Hindu festivals that are celebrated are Holi, Diwali, and Navratri. So, in our art education programs, we have special themes that go with these festivals. We talk about the significance of them, and we, talk about how we celebrate them, as part of our programs. We have the major Muslim festivals, which are Eid al-Fitr and Muharram. Also, the languages that we speak in India, there are 22 languages officially recognized by the government. Having said that, there are 121 languages with 19,500 dialects in India. So, even though I come from the state of Telangana in South India, there are multiple dialects that we speak. Telugu is the language that I speak, and it has several dialects. We do understand each other, though. India does not have an official national language, but Hindi is commonly spoken. So in the schools, urban schools mainly, we learn three languages. We do the regional language. For me, in my case, is Telugu. We also learn to read and write Hindi and converse in Hindi and English as well. So these are the three major languages that we learn in India. Now, that brings me to the end of the presentation. You can feel free to ask any questions at this point. I'll go back to the standards page.